to another fabulous video on my channel. I'm Jacob from Jay's Books Corner, and I have decided that I'm going to read you the intro to this long-winded vlog. This vlog, we cover 3 different books in full spoilery fashion. I don't want to give my final rating for the series. I think it's necessary if you're going into A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy that you know my opinions of all 3 books up front before you jump into them. Because I do recommend, if you've never read this series before, the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which we're about to jump into the spoilery vlog for, is amazing. I gave it a 4.75 stars. Fast-paced, very high octane. I loved it. It was great. Pip's story was phenomenal. It ends in a way that you don't need to continue on with Pip's story, and this is why I'm opening this intro again, because I don't think you should. And that's all I will say. We do cover As Good as Dead, and then Bad Girl, or Good Girl, Bad Blood, or something along those lines. I covered the 2 sequels as well, in full spoilery fashion, and to be honest with you, maybe this is the best way to consume it. The audiobooks are masterpieces, like people keep telling me. They were. The second book particularly was a phenomenal audiobook. I read it in like one sitting. It felt like a podcast, so it's like the only really good thing I gotta tell you about it. And the third one was a little more traditional in the audiobook formatting, but the narrators are so great. This follows a girl named Pip. The first one follows a girl named Pip who is doing her final project in high school, or one of her big final projects in high school, on a cold case of a girl named Amy Bell, thinking that the person who they said is the murderer isn't actually the murderer, and she's interviewing a bunch of people and coming down to figure out what actually happened. It's fun, it's high octane, it's an adult YA thriller with some very adult subject matters that turns into a very darky road, and they progressively get darker and darker as the series goes on. And the first book is the only one that I'd say is morally black and white. I wouldn't say everything about it's black and white, obviously, but it has the most color to it. The other ones get a little gray. And I think as the series progressed, I think it logically made sense to get grayer and grayer, and by the end it's like, you are just gray. It's not as fun. My non-spoilery section for this video. Let's go ahead and jump into A Good Girl's Guide to Murder from a Jacob a few months back. Today we are here talking about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. There are also chapter times linked down below, so you guys can jump around. I read the first 35% back in July. The only thing I remember is that I really thought that Sal did not murder anybody, if his name is Sal. He did not murder people suspected that he murdered. I can't remember exactly all the context clues. It's slowly coming back to me as I think about it, but not fully. I don't have any thoughts and opinions on the first 35%. I remember really liking the writing and the character, like really loving our main character right off the bat. I thought she had a nice voice and a good narration to follow, and I remember that I thought I was going to get sucked into it and wanting to read the entire series. The third book I don't think was out by that point, but it was coming out very soon. If not, had just like really recently came out. Now the whole series is out, so we can read the entire trilogy together, and we can go down this journey. And that's what we're going to do today. So, I have, like I said, we were starting on chapter 15, 150 pages in, or just a little under, I'm assuming 150 pages in, and we'll go from there. And that's where our spoilers will begin. Update you when I have a thought. A few things. I was right. It is Sal. Yay. Pip. I don't even know how I forgot the name Pip, because like, who the fuck can forget the name Pip? But I did. I'm loving it. I'm 56% in. I will definitely be finishing it today, no doubt. I want to continue reading it, but I was like, I gotta update you guys. The newest things that I have learned that I remembered was that she was a drug dealer. I don't think this was confirmed by the time where I was reading. Maybe I was far enough back, moved myself too far back that maybe I did read it. But I knew that she was a drug dealer and that she had another phone. We just realized the phone is missing, so it could have been in our body or someone could have grabbed it. And that the drug dealer is not a top suspect, but that she was definitely seeing a guy in a motel they definitely did go to. The old lady, and I don't think this is on, I don't ever think anything's on or off purpose. The old lady who worked there, who did work there at one point, said she saw her within the last like 4 weeks. She does have dementia, but I've also taken full suspect of the son. The son looked at the picture. We didn't really have anything about it, but normally that's the clear case of it could be him. So I'm putting it out there right now. It could be the son. Don't have a name for him either. So that's where we're at. Henry? Harry? Something like that. And then obviously Matt looks really bad. I'm pretty sure the name's Matt. Sorry, I'm really tired. The blonde who smoked a lot of pot and got a lot of LSD. Also looks a bit worrisome due to the closeness and things. Her dad was horrible and very abusive to the entire family, and seems like it continues to be very abusive. The little sister's back home, but nothing's really coming out of that. That's about where I'm at. She's had 2 death threat notes from this point, and she's gotten nowhere. She's gotten places, but nothing big. That's everything, folks. I will update you probably when I'm done. I hate to be that person, okay? But we'll have a lot to talk about when I'm done. If something interesting happens, maybe I'll try to get a footage of it. I don't think so. I'm about to go out, so I don't tend to vlog then. But who knows? Today could take us anywhere. You never know. Alright, I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, I got some updates on the spoiler front. They confronted the group of friends. They did lie. Somebody was blackmailing them. That was the big thing. So Sal didn't kill her. There still could be a chance, but they kind of disproved it completely, so I was right. Sal didn't kill her. My top suspects on the list that I think could possibly done. That one dude who showed up randomly, because you never doubt it. Now the teacher hasn't been on the list, her list yet, but I think it's a possibility. Because in one of the last few scenes, she was walking around this like junction or whatever, where she's talking to cops. Or no, not the teacher, the cop. That's what it was. And the cop was like, oh, she doesn't look like your usual type, like his cheating wife. And we all know that Addie or Annie or whatever her name is was fucking around. So, top suspects. Matt, possibly. I don't really know. It's a lot of coincidence for him. But I think that's just a red herring. I actually don't think we'll get to find out. I'm going to get back to listening. I'm having a great time playing my game, reading this book. Okay. So, like, a few things. A few queer moments that I need to talk about immediately is I was right, and I wasn't all at the same point. So, I put 2 theories out. 2 of them are slightly correct, right? So, the first one being, obviously, full spoilers. So much shit happened. The dog died. That was shocking. I was not prepared for the dog to die. I wasn't really attached to the dog, so it didn't, like, affect me, like, super emotionally. I think the way Pip handled it and how it was handled throughout the entire story was very emotional, and it hit me on that same point. But, like, overall arcing here, not the emotional level I was looking for. Maybe if I read the whole thing today, and not the last, like, 3/4. I don't know. Maybe that 1/4 of a novel really got me with the dog. I don't remember. The dog dying, totally shocked. It being the dad of the person, it being a family affair, also not shocking because that happens so much in these type of books, but like this dad who is in this love affair with this student, and then him bashing her in the head by accident, thinking he murdered her, then he went off and married Sal. To be honest with you, I thought that's where the book was going to end. I thought that we were not going to know who the killer was, and that was going to be a book 2 thing. It's not. We learned. I guessed that. I had a very strong feeling. And then the fact that they're pretty sure that she was still alive, I had also guessed she was not alive. It was a girl who was, and I'm really happy that her parents got to find her, but a girl that was missing, and that's it. That's where that story ended. And then you jump a little bit, like the next day or whatever, and they are pretty much done. They're pretty much cleared. Everybody's cleared. You know, the family can move on and things like that. Her friend's obviously not talking to her, but the friends can move on, families can move on. And then she realizes, no, something isn't adding up here. The notes are different. Things are different. And I had suspected something about the sister. I mentioned it earlier in one of these things. I didn't say it clearly because I wasn't really sure. She gave me an off 5, more of an off 5 than others. But the reason behind it also, I think, was pretty clear. Once again, it's one of those books you definitely get to see all the puzzle pieces before the puzzle is put together, which is great for us as a reader, that we can play along if you truly want to, which is really fun. And this book is perfect for that. It's perfect for a book club. It's perfect for like a buddy read type of scenario here. My thing being with it is the fact that she was assaulted, and this was revenge, an accidental revenge. So in a way, he did kill her because of the fact that her sister didn't help her because she thought she was dead anyways, and she died horribly, and then stuck her in a septic tank. What the fuck? It was shocking. But it wasn't like shocking enough to be like, oh, I gotta get pulled out of the story for a minute, update you guys, and then get pulled back in. I just wanted to hear the whole shebang. This had your villain and monologue 3rd act, but neither of them were villains, so it's kind of gray, which I tend to like better. And the writing was just so good here, I didn't really care about any of those things that I'm complaining about. The characters were great, the romance was great, the ideas were great, the subplots were very good. My only problem walking out of this book, which was a 5 out of beautiful 5 stars, Is this all the series gonna be 5/5? Because from like what I'm gathering, I think they all might be, which is great. That's exciting for this video. Where do we go from here? You know, when I walked out of a different series, a duology, one would say, kind of cornfield, I had an idea where the sequel was going. I think that one, you know, I had mentioned this in my other video, but I think the best way to build a series, an overlapping series, which is why I definitely am in the camp of you need to plan out your shit early or it's just all gonna fall apart. If you're writing one book out, you know, just think it's gonna be and this could be the case here. She could have just been like, this is gonna be one book, it did so well, she got greenlit for 2 more, and she felt like the characters themselves could handle another 1 or 2 mysteries. But because I know the next book ends on something tragic due to the opening of the 3rd book being so sad, I had to start to wonder, what the fuck? Because like, where is the through line plot? Because normally what happens when you're writing a mystery series, all these things goes forward. You have your A plot storyline, which is the missing girl. You have the B plot storyline, which is the murder, deframing this killer or whatever, right? This book should only answer the question of the deframing of the killer. If he was the framed or not. Obviously this book really presented it as he was never thought about being the killer, so I didn't really see it going that way, and so it's all about deframing. Whereas the A plot is normally carried over for the next 3 books, with B plot storylines kind of not taking away from the A plot in any way, shape, or form, building upon it, but also making it so your character has to go through a lot of shit before that final reveal at the end of the 3rd book. That's satisfying. Oh my god, I was there. Now, to be fair, this mystery that was presented to me, I don't really know if it could be stretched out for 3 books. I think this would probably been a duology. I think you could probably stretch it out for 2 books, but I want to know what the point of the rest of the series is. That's what's driving me to pick up Good Girl Murder Deed or something like that. It's a really weird ass title. My point being here, I'm really curious. Okay, that being said, I will see you guys, I don't know when we start book 2. Probably time for a check-in for Good Girl Bad Blood, which is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This follows Pip after the release. This can't take place super far after the 1st book. We're going to the trial of Max Hastings, and he's not guilty, but obviously he is obviously guilty. Then we also have Pip, who did a podcast talking about everything, and that's more like what the author, which I think she did a great job with, decided to do to wrap up the 1st book for anybody who's new and wanting to understand what it is. Once again, it doesn't feel like it's necessary, like you need to read the last book to understand what's happening in this book sequel, but it's still like a fun sequel. I am 34% into it, and so I do have a good idea of what the book is about. This one follows Pip as she is brought back into the world of being a detective, at-home detective, now a podcast detective. She's posting podcast episodes as she goes, which I don't really love. I always love murder mystery podcasts when the whole story's over, and so it doesn't always feel like there's like not a conclusion. Obviously this is a book, so like it's fine, but like I don't know if I love her just jumping into a new segment, a new season of her podcast. But it begins with her podcast first season being over. It did really, really well. She has over 600,000 people or 800,000 people that watched, who followed her podcast, and she is having segments talking about the Max Hastings trials. And she gets a call from a friend after the memorial of Sal. A lot of people went to a party, and somebody that we knew from the last book named Jamie, we didn't really know Jamie too well, but we knew his brother really well from the last book. He was a character witness, is now missing, and so we are following a missing person. It's not as good because the missing person doesn't add as much stakes as with Sal, and the last book you kind of had an idea that someone could be dead, and it was a good guessing game if someone was dead. Someone missing, you're still guessing if this person's dead, but somehow I don't feel as connected to this character as I did in the 1st book, as I did with Andy. I'm really liking it. The writing's still really good, and Holly Jackson is doing a great job jumping through points of views. It's a full cast audio narrator, so got that going for it as well. And I'll continue up to you as I work my way through it. I'm here, guys. Give you guys a 50% check-in. This one I don't love as much as the 1st one. That's the first thing right off the bat that I can tell you. It's still good, and we'll see if the final 50% of the book is going to be like worth like a 5-star read or not. I don't think it's going to be. I think this is probably like a 4.5, 3.5, 4 for me. It's much smaller in scope, it seems, there's not as many characters, so there's not many witnesses, at least in the first half. They've already had interactions with who could have either been the kidnapper, the person where, where the dude's missing. Her name's Layla, or something like those lines. They was a Tinder account. It's our suspected teacher, which I don't think is going to be the case because the first one was a teacher. Things like that. It's just, I'm really hoping that the next, 40% of the novel is really, really gripping, really, really good. It's very easy to read, and so I'm enjoying while reading it. So my enjoyment radar is way higher than the actual book itself. There's a lot more things at play here. We have people who leave Pip comments and things along those lines, and all those are very much at play in the entirety of the book. So that's an angle that I didn't see coming, that I do like, and everything has a different voice to it, so nobody seems the same, which I also like. I just don't know how much I'm completely sold on its entirety, but that's fine when it's over. And unless there's some big thing. So far, this book doesn't scream, I need to talk to you about, whereas the first one did kind of scream, I need to talk to you. I think that's the biggest change so far while reading. Okay, the latest update I have for you on it, that they thought he was dead. It was somebody else. I'm really surprised because he was found in the woods or something that Pip didn't go, because the bodies could possibly be connected. Now we're thinking it's through a drug dealing because of a number, and then you happen to find someone who was stealing drugs. So we're back with the Silvas, which were the big part of the first book. I'm assuming all three crimes are going to be somewhat related, just the consistency. I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet, but then again, it really hasn't even happened, the relation between the victims or anything. We will obviously see as we progress. I am now 90% into the book. Nothing big has happened, truly just about yet. I feel like the shoe is about to drop. She is at the lowest of her low, and she's accepted the fact that maybe she isn't the best person, which I'm assuming might call it bad blood. That's my best guess. I don't think anything she's doing is wrong, which is really interesting, because I'm on the side of the character. I'm curious to see how people feel about this. I do think it's gotten more interesting in the last 30%. Not enough to raise it up to a 5 just yet. We'll see if the reveal is that good, but I'm still really liking it, and I think I'm going to pick up the sequel today, because I do have it, so why not just binge the series, and if I do that, I'll let you know. Murder, Good Girl, Bad Blood. I finished it. I ran it on a 4, 3.75 to a 4. I didn't like how the ending wrapped up. It was Charlie who was doing the murdering. It's a cold case that was not even mentioned in the entire series at all. Someone does die, and I'm curious to see where this moment will take Pip for the third book, which is 90 to 100 pages longer, so I have to wonder why, and I don't even know what the mystery contains there. That's Good Girl, Bad Blood. Very enjoyable, very fast to read, could not put it down. I had some issues with the story structure. I also didn't find the stakes to be as high. She had a few similar instances with notes and things in this one, and I just didn't think it as interesting as I would deem others to be as interesting. So let's start the spoilery vlog. It opens with her meeting with Max Hastings. He is suing her for the thing that she posted in the last book. So that is a continuation of from the first book. That's one of the clear through lines, other than Ralphie, obviously, in their romance. Read all of these. She is still very much reeling from the death from the last one, from the blood on her hands and stuff, and she's a completely different character than we first made her in the first book, which I can understand why people don't really like. I've seen a lot of bad reviews. It has an okay Goodreads score. It's a 4.02 or something, which is pretty good. It's also the third in a series, and so people are more than likely to rate higher, at least in things that I've seen before. A part of me had wondered, what was it that people just were not vibing with? The thing that I come up with is that she's just a completely different character. She's doing drugs and some other stuff are going on. It's much darker. You can already tell the vibe. It's much darker. I'm enjoying it. This mystery is supposed to be black and white, is how she presents it in the novel. She picked it because of it. She's going off to college, and it's about a girl who was brutally murdered, and so she believes whoever obviously brutally murdered this person is obviously, that's who it's gonna, the problem's gonna be, the whole 9 yards. We'll see in 12% in. Still, the narrator's really, really good and stuff. I'm still gonna like it, but I am now 35% in, and she believes she's being stalked. Now she thinks it's this killer from the time that Andy was being murdered in the first book. So everything is coming full circle in a way. My biggest issue with these books, and I think it's going to stay true to the end, I don't think it's going to change anything, and so I just am accepting the fact and moving forward so I can objectively rate it, because right now it looks like it's slow, it's longer, and it's a lot of deep dive into some really dark shit. She's on drugs, there's a lot of dark shit going on. She's having murder fantasies, which are exciting to read because like it's a nice pick me up, but it's like, oh shit, what are you doing? She's also very uncharacteristically not herself. She believes that she's at her truest form, and there's also parts of her who believe that she's at her most chaotic, and it's more like she's at her most chaotic. I feel like she needs to be checked in somewhere. This is where I'm at. It's an interesting character to read from, and I'm very curious to see the growth and where we leave this character, because I think that's much more interesting, in my opinion, is where this book is going to end than the actual execution of getting there, because we haven't really even started the cold case yet. So originally it was about a girl who was brutally murdered and assaulted, to solve the case, over her first semester of college, but now she's being stalked, or she strongly believes she's being stalked. But there's some references saying that maybe she's not being stalked, and the drugs she's on, she's doing it to herself to portray this behavior so she can go and she can fight the case, which is also very interesting, but I don't really know where it's going to go from here in that, like, delusional, I can't think of the word, but where you're, like, not in your body type of moment. She's had a few dreams where she's cutting off pigeon heads, essentially the moral. And so she believes that she is being stalked, and she believes it's this killer that was going on around the same time that Andy was dying. It was caught the day that Andy died in a different town, a few towns over, and she talks about how well she knows the case and stuff. And I just wish there was references in A Girl's Guide to Murder about it, just like I wish there were references to Charlie's murder in the cold case of that, because we're bringing up older cases, and it's not like this is like with The Good Girl's Guide to Murder, a part that made that so interesting, but also a common thing that I had like complained about while reading, was the fact it felt very standalone-ish without any building off points. You like the characters, you're following the characters, there's nothing else going on. Andy's death in the beginning, and like following, like trying to figure out who the murder was, it was a case that was already opened for sure, but it was very much directed and you were very much there the entire time. Whereas the following sequels, the way Holly Jackson decided to do it, these are cases that were closed years ago, like maybe like 6 to 7 years ago, even further back than that, and we're trying to solve it or get revenge for them. This one follows a guy who is wrongfully acquitted because of horrible things. Cops are bad, essentially the answer. And that's what this one truly does follow. And it's interesting, I'm having a fun time with it, but it's there's like a dissociation with the story, because I don't feel like I'm actually in it, whereas the first book I felt like I was actually in it. This one's also from a lot of Pip's point of view, which is fine, but it does take out some of the podcast elements, which made the second book go by so fast, and part of the reason why I didn't mind. This one's very much like, oh god, monologuing. Which, once again, it's interesting. I just don't think I enjoy reading about PTSD inside novels as much as I think I thought I would. An interesting way to take the character. A lot of reviews, at least from star ratings and stuff, did not like this take on the character. I'm going in here on Christmas to give you a update, a much needed update. For now, 70% into the novel, I will be completing it. I have a few things to talk about, big things, which I'm sure you guys all knew about. So, I've been not really enjoying As Good as Dead as much as like some of the other ones. I definitely think A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is the best one so far. This one has a direct connection to it. They even bring in Andy's like dad and stuff, which we'll get to. I've just not really been enjoying this one. This one took out a lot of the podcast angle, which I really liked the second one, and it took out a lot of the like casework and trying to figure out who the killer is and things. And I'm gonna say that maybe it jumped the shark at the halfway mark, which is good in a way, because I need a pick-me-up. I just was not expecting the pick-me-up I got. She ends up going over to Ralphie. She's going insane. This is her downward spiral book for sure. And she's going insane, and she ends up going over to Ralphie's, and she gets a call. And she tells the person on the phone, actually, I know you want to know who would look for me, but who would look for you, or something along those lines. And she ends up getting kidnapped by this guy. Comes in behind her. She realizes she doesn't recognize the number, but she knows that she can figure it out. Well, then we learn, after she contaminates the entire car, then we learn that it was actually his dad, Jamie, was the killer, has been the killer the whole time. He does it based on retribution and things, and he even goes into explicit detail saying that he murdered her dog from the first book, which was a nice touch, Holly. It was a nice touch. She ends up finding the will to get out of the situation that she was in. She was on her way to leave the situation of the premises after being kidnapped and everything, and getting the will. She was on her way out, and she comes into a bit of a situation where she's afraid that she tells the cops, this is the person who's been doing it, this is the person who, did all these things, tried to murder me and stuff along those lines, that they probably wouldn't do anything about it. The killer's away, the original killer's away, and Jamie is a really well-known stand-up guy. A lot of people in the town really like him, as we talked about before, and so they just don't think that he would be the one to do it, right? So she takes it upon her own matters and kills him with a hammer, which I was not expecting. This is the part where maybe it jumped the shark a little. Now it's turning into how to get away with murder, and can they pin the murder on Max Hastings, who desperately does need to go away in their defense. Ralphie's on board, support a boyfriend, my god. Holy shit, don't give up on him. That's where I'm at. They come with the idea that they're going to put him in the car to lower his temperatures and stuff, and then they gotta figure out how to pin the murder on Max. And I think that's what the next 30% is. We're in part 2, so we will see. I'll update you when it's all over with my final rating. Honestly, I have no idea where this is being placed. In my brain right now, it's anywhere between a 2 and a 5. So we'll just see how the last 30% go. I'm here. Let's talk. She got away with murder. This line that's said towards the very... There's a few things I did not like about this book. Like I mentioned early on, I don't like a cold case that's never mentioned before in a series that I'm writing now. If it's a mystery series, I think if you're planning out a long-winded series that's all connected, this is connected directly to the first and second book, then there should be references in all three leading up to the main big one. You should have references to Charlie's mystery in the first book. If it connects to a bigger, wider mystery, that way that one connected to 14, 15, 17 years beforehand. This one didn't particularly do that. This one was 7 or 8 years beforehand. Jamie had been killing people since Addie 15. And then before that, he was not a great guy either. And I don't mind the fact that Max Hastings got arrested. Some people did in some of the reviews I read. I think it was fine. I also thought it was a pretty good way to frame him, to be honest with you. And I do agree with a lot of people online. Yeah, if you start to look through the holes here, oh, they're going to jail. There's no way that Ralphie and her do not have some type of DNA anywhere. Also, Pip wouldn't have recovered so fast from the brutal mutilations that she did to herself and that he did to her before she, did what she did. There's too much speculation here. There's no way they cleaned up all the evidence. The only thing that they found were her headphones. Sure. And the fact that they were pretty sure that she was the one who did it, which would make sense. She has a great motive, innovation, even without the fact that they knew he was a killer. That it was also proven later that he was the person who did all the murders beforehand, meaning she even has even bigger motive to do it, just to point that out there. And I'm interested in why she turned in all the evidence she had for it, and whole 9 yards here. I'm getting at myself. Pip, as a character, I liked from book 1. I liked how the series turned darker. I liked that this got gory. I enjoy these things. It went darker. If you want morally gray lines, this is like the definition of a series for you. And I think some people are gonna really love this book because of the places that they went. I just don't think logically it makes any sense. I think where Pip was at, I think, yeah, I think I don't know if I would have done the same thing in her situation. I do like the reflection later on in life that like if she would have just went down the other road, maybe this would have been different. Maybe the circumstances would have been different. Maybe she would have won her court case with Max and did not turn to such a brutality of a rate. Maybe if the cops in the previous two books had shown any type of wanting to solve the cold case and or the kidnapping of a boy who sure did a lot of bad things but still is a person who deserves to be found, maybe she would have turned to them. Maybe it wouldn't have been such like, oh wow, I can't believe you're not fucking turning to them, you know? And I think that's just the thing that keeps going back in my mind when I'm thinking back to the actions that she chose. Ralphie is a 10 out of 10 boyfriend, and I'm really pissed off they don't end up together in the end. It's like one of the most clearest things in the whole entire book. I don't even care not knowing like if they ever did go backwards. We learn at the very, very end that they do find Max Hastings guilty. I mean, they left a shit ton of evidence. There's no way they wouldn't have found him guilty. But the final line is, hello, Roger, or something like that. And hello, stranger, something along those lines. And I kept thinking to myself, is this something, like, is this a conversation? It's a man's voice. It's not her voice, the female's narrator voice. Is this something that he would say to her? And so it's like, oh, they're together now because Ralphie said his thing. I couldn't find it anywhere, and no one talked about it in any of the reviews that I found. So if you guys have any theories, let me know in the comments down below what the end of this book is. I think there should be a fourth one. I don't really know what I want from it. I don't even know if I want a full book, but I think there's more to the story than what it went on. She's going to New York, and so I would even take a whole new trilogy with this new character. Same character, just new personality. So that's my final thoughts and opinions. I land on a 3.75 star, running down to a 3 for Goodreads. It's close to a 4, so I could have rounded up, but I don't think it deserves the 4 in my opinion, so I round it down for Goodreads, because Goodreads don't have half star increments or anything like that, or it would have been a 3.5 on Goodreads. Either way. Let's talk about the series as a whole, because this is the ending of this video. It goes as following. The first book is where you should read. You should watch the entire spoilery video after that point and not read the sequels. The audiobooks are phenomenal. I just think the final book loses its way from what it actually is about. It went from how to solve a murder to how do I commit a murder and how do I frame someone for that murder, without any elements of the previous two books, such as newspaper clippings and things like that. And I think the audiobook really shined there. Now, that's being said, once the murder took place, I was hooked, and like the last 50% I read in one sitting. The first 50% of the last book took me forever. How to Get Away with Murder, or A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, is the superior one. You don't need to read the rest of the trilogy, which I said in the very beginning of this video. I was like, where's this gonna go? Not expecting where it went. Yeah, the whole thing's answered. So I recommend sticking with a Good Girl Guide to Murder. And then the second one's fine. It's a fun time. Definitely not rememberable, in my opinion. And the third one, definitely rememberable, but I don't know if it's in a good way. And yeah, that's my opinion on this series. I know you guys' opinion. I'm curious to pick up more Holly Jackson. She released a thriller that was pretty badly received last year, and I'm curious, and so I'll probably read that next year. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As you guys said, please give me a thumbs up. Don't comment down below, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on next time.